Kieran Kingston has stepped away as Cork manager. What did you make of that, Nicky? It's probably not unexpected.
No, not unexpected. No, a nice fella, Kieran. He's had 2 stints at it, I suppose. And look, he felt he's probably got as much out of him. I suppose it's also he may feel that the Cork probably need to do something different with their style, and maybe he feels that that's up to a new man to come in and work with the players on that score. Look, he's had a good innings. He's given it his best shot, and they've had some disappointments along the way. But he's a man of enormous integrity and deserves a lot of credit from Cork supporters for what he has done. But Cork still needs to start. It is still a county that needs to kind of work harder and try and get back up the table a bit. It has been out of the limelight for too long from a Cork supporters perspective.
Nicky, just from a Kilkenny and Tip and Cork point of view, will Cork ever go outside? Are they like, if ever there was a time to go outside, it could potentially be now. But like, are they too proud to go outside, or is that something you ever see happening?
I don't see it happening. I think it's the job as Pat Ryan's, if he wants it, if he's up to it, possibly working with someone like Wayne Sherlock as well. I think that successful under 20 management team is likely to come in there now. That's me speculating. I'm not working on any inside information or anything like that. But it's probably Pat Ryan's. I mean, he was in the Waterford job and had to pull out of it, as you know. So I'd say it's a fair good chance that he was able to go back to do the under 20 job in Cork. Very good period there with them. So it's his, I suspect. That's me speculating, and maybe someone like Wayne Sherlock as well, who's a very good guy on the sideline also. So that's who I think will probably be in there subject. But Cork won't go outside the county. No, can't see it happening.
Yeah, and I think some people will know that Pat Ryan didn't take it up due to health reasons, the Waterford job that time. And I think I've heard from other people saying that it's a job that I don't think he necessarily wants to take. But look, we'll wait and see, because sometimes when it's put on your plate, then you might think differently. But look, maybe Pat thinks completely differently. It's just speculation. But Dermot O'Sullivan, The Rock, who's obviously been soldiering with Kieran Kingston throughout his tenure, has said, incredibly proud this was on Twitter, to stand with Kieran over the last 3 years. Thank you for everything and staying true to your vision. Scrutinised to the extreme by those who wore red, stood on line as red so they could remain relevant through various media outlets. When they walk, they walk. So to me, that comes across as basically there's Cork people in the media, people who've previously been involved, that are throwing slings and arrows towards them. Look, I mean, Nicky, you've managed. You've been in a situation. Obviously, this is different now, different era. Social media, everyone's having a pop. There's far more media outlets out there. But how much did it hurt if somebody ever had to say something about your team and you were thinking, that used to be my teammate there now, or I used to work alongside him and now he's having a pop?
Of course it hurts. I mean, I would have always said that I never give a damn about myself and what people were saying about me. It's actually your family you feel worse for, to be quite frank about it. And I'd say Kingston is that way as well. He had a somewhat similar situation to myself, even though I wouldn't consider myself being a very successful inter-county manager. But during my time, my brother was playing on the team, and I think deservedly so. He was a very honest player. And Kieran Kingston had to cope with having his own son on the team, and there was days when he was not picked. In my view, he should have been picked, but he was in an awful tough position. So it's very difficult. And I would say possibly part of his reason for not going forward as well is to not have that pressure there on Shane, his son, who's an exceptionally good hurler in my view. And he just needs to get a good run at the Cork in the Cork attack, and just not feel that I'm on one day and off the next day. So it kind of gets personal like that. But obviously, I was involved in the mid-90s. Social media was in its infancy, or wasn't even there. I mean, what people are saying now about managers is just horrendous, and that affects their family as much as the individual themselves. And that could very well be reasons why the likes of a Pat Ryan or a Wayne Sherlock says, why the hell do I want this sort of hassle at all? I can get involved in the club, or I can do whatever I want to do. It is enormous, the pressure that's under now at intercounty management, and it's extraordinary the amount of work away from the standing on outside the whitewash on the line that takes place in terms of the organisational aspect of it, and the interpersonal stuff that has to take place between players and maybe their employers and various other things. The manager is at the heart of that, and quite honestly, you just don't need to be a good hurling coach anymore or Gaelic football coach. You need to have a range of interpersonal skills and management skills and various other skills now to undertake inter-county management, because it is incredible the breadth of issues that these people have to address on an ongoing basis.
Just on that, Shane, I was chatting to Owen Cadigan last week and just asking him about, like, you know, if Kieran didn't go forward, or do you think he'll go forward, who would be the likely replacements? And he was kept reiterating the fact that there were lots of good coaches in Cork, but that he didn't think there were a huge number of potential managers. Ben O'Connor is definitely one that would jump out to me, because, and I mean this in the best way possible, because there's he's a, how should we say, I'm not going to use the right words, but he'd be very ignorant is not, I don't mean it like that, but he'd be very forceful in his point, and forceful in the way he wants them to play, forceful in the way he wants them to be mentally steeled. And you'd have to say Cork have probably lacked a bit of that recently. So I definitely think, whether it's as coach or manager, I would definitely have him in around the management team. It'd be interesting to see whether Pat Mulcahy, who was brought in, I don't know, is he brought in this year or the year before, whether there's a potential for a succession plan there with him taking over or not, or whether even Dermot O'Sullivan will be involved potentially in the next backroom team. It's going to be interesting, but the managers wouldn't exactly jump off the page at you from a Cork point of view, and it does look like they need a big kind of strong figure. So I definitely would have Ben O'Connor in the equation anyway, from everything I've heard about him and dealings with him. I know he's involved with Charleville a couple of years ago when they went on a great run, and he was obviously involved in Middleton's county success last year as well.
Liam O'Callaghan says, was the Rock reference in Nash on Twitter yesterday? Only other Cork possibility is Owen Cadigan, who writes for the Examiner. I did one other thing that stood out to me. I got a response from Maurice Brosnan on Twitter when I tweeted it out. This was Dermot O'Sullivan talking about John Myler's Cork a few years ago, and that he was talking, you know, he defended Cork against flakiness, but criticised the side for lacking commitment, hunger, or Plan B. So like that's the little thing that's, I suppose, some people aren't too happy about. They're like, yeah, that's grand having a pop and defending yourself and your team and all that, but if you've done it yourself before, Nicky, it's, you know, people are going to point that out to you too.
Look, there's no doubt about it. But if you take a county like Cork that's been kind of out of the limelight for a while, they're not been winning All Ireland finals. I mean, all sorts of theories abound in a county, and all sorts of comments will come out, and people get edgy, and people who are passionate about the game, who genuinely mean to and say the right things and think they're saying the right things, and there's other that are the keyboard warriors who just lash and throw things around the place like confetti. So it is a very, very difficult, but it's really down to a county that has such a rich history of success as Cork has had in hurling terms. It's just not been getting the success. They've had a bit at underage level, and that is the hope that the players will come from that group and will create the next Cork All-Ireland winning team. But it's a county that's edgy. It's not happy. It's uneasy with itself when it comes to the hurling scene. And that all places huge pressure on any new people coming on board, and it causes all these sort of comments and whatnot. But look, at the end of the day, Cork are not a million miles away from any of the top. They're up there in the top 4 or 5, and I think that the gap with Limerick appears to be closing a little bit. Appears to be. We'll know that in a week and a half's time. But Cork are not too far away, and it's a matter of just continuing to maybe get a few new players. Maybe look at some of the style they're playing, and they're not going to be a million miles away at all. And I thought Kingston did a decent job. He's a good guy, but unfortunately, it just didn't work out for him.
Is there an All Ireland in those Cork players, do you think, Nicky?
I would think so. I think there's a fair possibility. Yeah, they need to maybe relook at the style of play. Maybe that they have the type of player they have. Maybe they don't have the same type of physicality as Limerick, and when a big team like Limerick comes at them, maybe they're found wanting in a number of areas. But they just need to change their game a little bit. I think Limerick are able to hit ball diagonally across the field. They're able to pop past at 20 or 30 metres. They're able to send in a long ball, and they know they have the players at the end of that long ball to win it or to hold it up or get possession or get fouled and all that. Cork need to look at their whole aspect of their game plan and try and make the best out of their players, and maybe try and dig out 1 or 2 new players, because there's some right cracking players on that successful under-20 team. And while they don't become senior players overnight, it may very well be now that they might need to spend a National League next year trying to give give these players a chance, because just a message that's was popped up there that Cork underage have been ahead of Limerick, Kilkenny and Tipperary for the last while, and that's a valid point. Now they have to try and transition those lads on to become senior players over the next number of years.
For more exclusive content, go to patreon.com/OurGame.